Hey, the Rebbe was discussing the Dalit versus the um, letter Resh, that they're both represent Anius, Vidalus, level of lacking, level of poor. But the difference is in Kedusha, the level of poor is the level of humility. But through humility, you actually get all. That's why Psach Libi, B'Seidah Secha, after V'nafshika Tia, through that humility, you actually get up a lot more. So unlike in Lumazeh, where Reish represents lacking that they don't have, in Kedusha, the level of Bittul brings a much greater level. The Rebbe will bring out now, as the Rebbe said, this is also the idea of Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is to restrict. Tzimtzum, the restriction that Hashem created the world, that Tzimtzum is not for lacking, for diminishing, taking away. It's taking away for the purpose of Gilui. And now the Rebbe is going to explain. This is a very a very detailed and a lot of Hasidic insights from Ayin Beis Samachvov. The Rebbe articulates here in both parts, both in the Mamer itself and also the notes, and we'll try to go through them. But the Rebbe says all tzimtzumim, the tzimtzum is not so great, but the real tzimtzum, the greatest tzimtzum, which is the tzimtzum harishon, which is the tzimtzum of bebchinas siluk, that it's a removal. So over there we're saying that tzimtzum mainly is b'shvil hagilui, because it's such a big tzimtzum that the Rebbe will explain that it was necessary after that tzimtzum that brought about the Hisavus HaKelim. But the point here is that even after the tzimtzum in Hisavus HaKelim, through Hisavus HaKelim, you're able to get the level of Gvul, the level of Bligvul, everything of Kedusha in a greater way. The Rebbe is bringing all this out to explain to us how in our Avodas Hashem, the Rebbe will be in the next ois, in our Avodas Hashem, even though we serve Hashem in a way of tzimtzum, or it's called in the way of ocher versus ponim, in abchinas achorayim, we don't have the higher level. It's a mitzumtzum dike level of Avodas Hashem. But in that tzimtzum of Avodas Hashem, we have the depth of the pnimius. In our koiches hageluyim, we have the revelation of the etzem. And I will see all these that I will discuss. But right now, we're discussing the inyan of the tzimtzum harishon, and to explain why the tzimtzum harishon needed to be in a way of siluk, and only because it was in a way of siluk, which was much greater than the other tzimtzumim, which not siluk, but because it was in a way of siluk, that allowed for Hisavus HaKelim, allowed for the Oir HaGvul to be in the Kelim, but not only that, it also gives you the Oir HaBligvul. So here in the Ois, as well as in the notes, will be explained a lot of these details. Let's do it step by step. This that we said before, explained earlier. The kavonas had tzimtzumu b'shvil hagilui, that the intent of the restriction is because of the revelation hu be'iker b'tzimtzum harishon davke. This is mainly by the first restrictions. The other restrictions aren't as strong, and they don't bring out that level of gilui. The real level of gilui is dafke after the restriction that comes from the Tzimtzum Harishon. The Tzimtzum Harishon's purpose was the Gilui. The other Tzimtzumim are not different. They're also Tzimtzum so that they can get it, but it's the main one is the Tzimtzum Harishon because that's a most powerful Tzimtzum, and the Gilui that comes from that through that Tzimtzum is tremendous and allows for tremendous Gilui to come through. As explained at length in the Maimorim of the Bal Ha'ilula from Yud the Friedrich Rebbe of the year Tavshin Beis, in Hemshech Tavshin Beis. The Hine Yodua, because it's known that Tzimtzum Harishon Shahoya Be'orin Sof Baruch Hu. That very first Tzimtzum that was in the infinite light, blessed be He, is Choluk Ma'at Tzimtzumim, the Seder HaHishtalshlus, is different than the Tzimtzumim of Seder HaHishtalshlus. All the Tzimtzumim are Derech Parse, Derech Mosoch. The Tzimtzum Harishon is Derech Siluk. The Rebbe explains. That Tzimtzumim, the Seder HaHishtalshlus, the restrictions which are within the order of the Hishtalshlus, Hurak miyut oir bilvad. It's a diminishing, a lessening of the light. The Tzimtzum lessens the light, it diminishes the light. V'hainu shabi Hishtalshlus min madrege lemadrege, as the evolvement, as it evolves from one step to the next step. So the light through the restriction gets diminished. So the lower step goes through a tzimtzum and gets a lesser oil, which is either a mosoch, a curtain, a parsa is a heavier cover, kiyetzeboy. The light that goes through that isn't a removed light, but it's a diminished light. It's the same light, but you get less of it when it comes through the Mosoch and Parso. That is by the Tzimtzumim of Seder Hishtalshlus. Mashein came with Tzimtzum Harishon, as opposed to the very first Tzimtzum, Shehu Siluk Oir Harishon Legamri. Over there, it's entirely removing the first light. The Oir Ein Sof was filling the whole place of the cholul, the whole place in which the Eibishter later on created the Hishtalshus. So first there was the infinite light of the Ein Sof, which Hashem removed and created a hollow place, a mokum cholul, mokum pami. That means the Eibishter removed it totally. That's not diminishing the oil, but removing the oil. So that in this level of restriction, which is in the way of removing, yeshno inyan nifla. Over here, there is a very wondrous idea. That gilui that we're talking about, tzimtzum mishvil gilui, that wondrous happens here. She'enoi bahat tzimtzumim, they say that ha'ishtalshlus, it's not by the other tzimtzumim, which are b'derech miut, b'derech mosoch or parsa. Over here, when it's tzimtzum b'derech siluk, you have wondrous thing, and that is what we're saying, that the main tzimtzum b'shvil gilu is the wonderful things that happen through the tzimtzum of the tzimtzum harishon. So what's the idea? As explained over there, Ubehemshech Tov Tarav, Tov Rejaim Beis, Elach Kveit Kedush Admor Shmos Eiden, to the Rebbe Rashab, to Admor Shmos Eiden, the Mailas HaTzimtzum Shebederech Siluk Davke, that the advantage of the Tzimtzum, which is in a way of removal, Einoi Rak Bishvil Sheyi Atzilus Oiris. It is not just so that this should be an ability that through the tzimtzum So now there could be oiris that are mugbal to go into the kelim, into the ishtalshlus. So we should say that the point of the tzimtzum is only for oiris. Actually, the point of the tzimtzum is for the kelim and for the oiris to come down in the kelim, and after the oiris come down to kelim to also get the oir habligu. Let's look inside. Ki'im. So it's not to create oiris. Ki'im be'iker b'chdei sheyuchal liyis is havos hakelim, but mainly that there should be the ability to create kelim. What happens with the create kelim? The Rebbe brings down first the famous question that the Eitz Chaim answers. He says, why did the Eibishter need to remove the entire light? And then mamshich, a measured light from Lifnei HaTzimtzum into the Hishtalshelus, into Acher HaTzimtzum. Why did the Eibishter not just diminish the light that was there, that was Mamale Mokem HaCholol, should have diminished that light and left over that amount that he gave later. So whatever the Eibishter gave later, the amount that the Eibishter gave later on by being mamshich, the kavdak, the small thin light that the Eibishter brought into the ishtalshlus, into the after the tzimtzum, why didn't the Eibishter just leave that kavdak without having to remove everything? So what does the Eitz Chaim answer? Okay, Moshe Tiris Eitz Chaim. Why the tzimtzum was in a way that it was removal? Why was there not this concept of this thin line of oir through just diminishing, removing all the extra, just leaving that kav? And the Eitz Chaim explains if it was left as in the beginning, just the light of the Ein Sof, if it was just be in a way, so that kav would have not gone through the tzimtzum siluk and then brought in, but it would have remained. It would have been in a way of diminishing the light and just leaving that light, and it wouldn't be siluk and bringing it back. Loi hoya efsher liyis his havus mitzias kelim. Then there could not be the possibility of creating kelim. Kalim is those receptacle. If the light would have been so strong, so that the kalim, even though it was diminished, but kalim could not come from that light unless it goes through the siluk and then it comes in. Then you can have kalim. Through the fact that the tzimtzum came, that the light was removed, not diminished, but removed totally. So first, what happened with that removal? So while kalim were not created yet, but nizgale inyan hagvul, what became revealed is the level of limitation. The Eibishter has infinite power, and the Eibishter also has the power infinity to limit it, to create unlimited. And when the Eibishter removed the light that was Mamale Mokem HaCholol, what revealed was here was the Rishimu. Just like when you erase on a paper, there's a mark left from what was written. So the oil that filled the Mokem HaCholol when it was removed, but there was a Rishimu left. That Rishimu is Nezgale Inyan HaGavul. That revealed the idea of a limitation. Harishimu, that is the Rishimu, Shehu Shoirish HaKelim, Hibigilu. So it became revealed that the Rishimu. So that happened through the Siluka Oir. It revealed the Gvul, which is the Rishimu, which is the root of the Kelim. Harishimu Hibigilu. What does it mean the Rishimu is Bigilu? Before the Eibishter removed the whole light, so the Rishimu, the Gvul, was within the Blikvul. It was all together. The fact that he removed it, now all of a sudden, the Rishimu, the Gvul, the mark that was left, because it removed, now it's open. Now we can see that part that wasn't before. So that was the first benefit of Siluk, to reveal the Gvul, the Rishimu. And then was the Hamshocha, the Gam. In addition to that, Oir HaKav Nimshach Acharat Tzimtzum, and the Oir HaKav that comes after the Tzimtzum. It's not the same amount. It can be the same thing as if you just diminished it. The Oir HaKav that is extend after the Tzimtzum, after the Siluk, Harehu Bo Al Yidei Hefsek HaTzimtzum. It comes, there was an interruption, there was a Tzimtzum there. It's not like the Ein Sof. Diminishing it, it would still be part of the Ein Sof. The fact that there was a removal and then you bring it down, it's a oil that goes through the Tzimtzum, the Hefsek HaTzimtzum. And therefore, it's not like the Ein Sof. Afilu ha'oir ha'gavul shalifnei HaTzimtzum. Even the limited oir, which is lifnei HaTzimtzum, which is together with the oir in sof, which has both powers of gvul and legvul. So that level of oir that comes after the tzimtzum is not at all the same as lifnei HaTzimtzum, not even the power of gvul in lifnei HaTzimtzum. Ukenal b'toyres Rav Magid, as we said before in the teaching of the Rav Magid, how come when the Eibishter created the light, it doesn't say like by the other creations that it was so? Because it's not so. The Oir Ha Insof, which is Bligvul, is different. Vahi Oir is the new Oir. The Oir that comes through the Hefsek Hatzimtzum is a new Oir. It's not the same Oir. And through this Oir that is Mitzumtzum, Nase his Habus HaKelim. The actual Habus HaKelim come from the Oir that went through the Tzimtzum. Umekabling b'toicham, and then they can get in themselves as Oir HaKav. They get the light of the Kav to come into the Kelim. They create the Kelim, and then the light of the Kav, as you have the Spheres and you have the Oiris, you have the Oiris and the Kelim. So you have the Oir, a new Oir, that creates Kelim, that allows for the level of Kelim. So far, this is all to create Kelim and all out to have the Oir come down. But here the Rebbe has, there's something major wondrous that is taking place over here now, that not only is the Oir HaKav, when it does come down in the Keli, and even though we said that it's not the same as the Keli, but something special happens that the Keli become on a higher level. Oid inyan nifla. Well, wait a minute. Nifla shahakelim mistaknim ba'ifum kozeh. That these kelim get fixed, they get improved to such a level ad sheloi rak shemekablim bekabolas toiva as b'chinas oir hagavul shalamaylo. It's not only that they can receive very well the oir hagavul, which comes down through the kav shalamaylo, because of the oir that went through the tzimtzum that created the kelim. So now that the kelim can be mekabel, the oir hagvul shalamaylo ve'enim is batlim imtziosum, and they don't negate from their existence because of the powerful oir after the oir shines in the kelim, and the kelim fixes them. And they fix the kelim. So then the kelim can get the oir hagvul. Even the Sachidish I said before, because it's in a different level, it's not the same. The Eir Lifnat Tzimtzum, the Lachara Tzimtzum, Elo Oid Zois, but in addition, Shem Mekablim, Gamas Pichanes Eir Abligvul, they'll even get Eir Abligvul. And in here, what the Rebbe is trying to say, that the Tzimtzum brings them to get after the Tzimtzum, and after this siluk, then you get this tremendous light of the Eir HaBligvul to come down into the kelim, and that's what means kavanos hatzimtzum b'shvil hagilui. When they showed him the mitzvahs, when they remain in their mitzvahs. So this is what the Rebbe wants to bring down, that even in the avodah later on, in the neshamas, in Torah, that even in the tzimtzum, you get the highest level from the higher the tzimtzum. But now let's do the notes over here. First, Ha'ara Yud Gimel, the note Yud Gimel. The Rebbe says, when we say that it can come down, here the Rebbe brings down in this thing, that point over here, it's not just that they're makabel, the higher level of oir lifnat simtsum, but they're getting even the level of bligvul. The lifnat simtsum bligvul come down. The goy del haflo legabe sharat simtsumimi. So why is this so great? We're saying that the real gilui simtsum shvila gilui is the simtsum arisha. That's so much greater. So why is it so much greater? The Rebbe explains, because it gives them even bligvul. The b'tzimtzum b'derech miyut ha'oir, when the tzimtzum is in a way of diminishing the light. Hine loizu bilvad. So besides the fact sha'oir hanimshach al yidei hatzimtzum, that this light that goes through the tzimtzum, gam k'moy shehu lifnei hatzimtzum, even as it is before it went through the tzimtzum. So when you compare the light as it went through the restriction to it before it goes through before the restriction, hu be'erech k'moy shehu la'achar hatzimtzum. So it's still compared, which means when it's b'derech siluk, it's totally uncomparable. But besides that, elo shegam klolus ha'oir shelifnei hatzimtzum hu bebchinas shaychus la'oir shelachar hatzimtzum. All of the oir which is before the tzimtzum, not only the oir that is being actually restricted, but b'chlal the oir that is the general oir lifnei hatzimtzum, has a connection to the oir of the achar hatzimtzum. Not only in that specific restricted oir, but generally the oir lifnei hatzimtzum, it's all in ishtalshalos. It's all connected. It's not really a totally different level. shebederech siluka oir, as opposed to the hamshocha that was by the first Tzimtzum that was in the way of removal of light. In the av gam oir hagvul, oir hakav, hanimshach la'acharat tzimtzum. So even though that the oir hagvul, which is the oir hakav, the kav, that's the limited light of the Ein Sof that comes down. Hu shaloi be'erech likmoi shu lifnei hatzimtzum. That it's uncomparable to the way it was before the Tzimtzum, meaning now it came down on a level of Kav. Measure the Kav in its source, and Lifnei Tzimtzum, there is no comparison to them. So we're saying that, but yet, hine apapine loizu bevad shal yidei Tzimtzum. So you have a limited Kav, but in that limited Kav, you're going to get the entire Bligvul, Gvul, and Bligvul of Lifnei Hatzimtzum. It's Shaloi Be'erech. So if it's Shaloi Be'erech, so how are you going to get the Oir HaBligvul Shalifnei Hatzimtzum? Certainly, how are you going to get the Oir HaBligvul Shalifnei Hatzimtzum? Afal Pikein Yed, Hine Lo Yizutz Bilvad Shal Yidei Shahat Tzimtzum Ubederech Siluk Oir Legamri. Because it was a total removal, Nimshach Oir HaGvul La'acharat Tzimtzum. So the Oir HaGvul extends after the Tzimtzum. So they can get it because they went through the Tzimtzum and Shaloi Be'erech. Now the Kelim can receive it. It's not only that limited, but there's general of that Tzimtzum. Also the level of legal, as the Rebbe said, the coming note. So the Kelim receive it. So what we get through the Tzimtzum B'derech Siluk, that in that Oir, even though that the Oir HaKav is Shaloi Be'erech to the Oir HaGvul Shebelifnei HaTzimtzum and the Ein Sof, the general Oir is able to come through the Kav. As the Rebbe says, after that, they're mistaken to get to that level. That's what they can get it. The Rebbe says in Ois Yudalid, after the Oir sort of comes down, the Oir HaKav creates the Kelim, dresses up in the Kelim, and then the Kelim become prepared to get the Oir Shalifnei HaTzimtzum, not only the Oir HaGvul, but also the Oir HaBligvul. Ki ach in Ois Yudalid, ki achar shenizgale al yidei HaTzimtzum. After it was revealed, the Tzimtzum revealed the power of Gevul, which is in Ein Sof, Magbil Gam, so then that also limits the Ein Sof, the Bligvul, once we get the revelation of the power of Gevul. B'hainu, sha'oir shenisamtzem v'nisalem. So that light, that was restricted and hidden because Misalik Oir was restricted. Shazehu Oir HaBligvul, Harehu Bo B'B'chinas Gevul. So that comes in a level of Gevul. Why? Because once the Oir was removed, it was the Rishimo. Habo B'Chinas Rishimo Koich HaGevul. The Liyos She'Pe'ula Sat Tzimtzum Hu She'Yizgale Koich HaGevul She'Bein Sof. Since the act of the Tzimtzum brought about that the power of Gevul of the Ein Sof, that is Shimo, should be revealed, Lezois Hinei Kemoi She'Koidem HaTzimtzum. Just like before the Tzimtzum, before the revelation of the Rishimo, before the Tzimtzum, when there was the revelation of the Ein Sof Bilti Bagvul. Harehoya his gabrus oirazeh habligvul al b'chinas koich hagvul shlo yiniker klal. There was the overpowering of the light of bligvul over the power of Gvul. You couldn't recognize him before the Siluk, before the Rishimu, before the Koyach HaGvul. It was part of the Ein Sof, and you couldn't see the Koyach HaGvul. The Gam Koyach HaGvul Hakolul Be'atzmusei Hu Bli Gvuli. Because also that power for Gvul is God's infinite power that he can also do Gvul. So it's not a Gvul, real Gvul, but it's a Bli Gvul, so that Bli Gvul can make Gvul also. The Gam Koyach HaGvul HaKol B'atzmosei Hu Bli Gvuli. It's also Bli Gvul. Ve'enoi Elom Mishleimus Atzmusi Yisbarach V'Yisala. It's really from the Eibishter's Shleimus. Which means it's not Gvul really. It's only a Shleimus that he has a Koyach B'Gvul. Okay, the Isa Bavedis HaKodesh, the Ein Sof U'Shleimusa B'Blich Sodom Chaz V'Sholem. The Ein Sof is complete. There's no lacking, God forbid. As he says, the Bavedis HaKodesh, V'im Teima Sheyesh L'Koyach B'Bli Gvul V'Ein L'Koyach B'Gvul, Harei Ato Mechaser Shleimusei. If you're going to say that the Eibishter only has the power in infinite, but he doesn't have the power in infinity, in Gvul, in limitation, so then you're lacking his wholesomeness, that there's something that he can't do, and the Eibishter can do everything. And look, Shem, sheyesh l'koyach b'bli Gvul, just like he has the koyach b'bli Gvul, kach yesh l'koyach b'Gvul. He has the power in Gvul. Harei, shegam inyone shel koyach ha'gvul shel lifnei ha'tzimtzum, hu b'li Gvul. So also, really, the power of Gvul and Lifnei Tzimtzum is Bli Gvul. So it wasn't recognized. There was no Gvul there. It's all the infinite Koyach of the Eibishter. Bli Gvul, Gvul, everything. But likewise, what happens after the Rishim? Hine, la'achar ha'tzimtzum. After the Tzimtzum, that his blessed wishes was, his want was, that there should be the revelation of the Koyach HaGvul, HaKoyach HaGvul, that power of Gvul, Magbil Gam B'chinas Ha'ir Sof HaBli Gvul. Also the Ein Sof HaBli Gvul, it limits that as well. Once it was revealed, and once we have the Koyach HaGvul, so even the Oir HaBli Gvul can come down in the Gvul, into the Kav, into the H'tshlzus. The Mamorim that the Rebbe said in, well, it was in Eretz Yisrael, and say Mamorim could trace him. So over there he explains that the Hagbola takes place in the Koyach Ein Sof Bli Gvul through the revelation of the Bli Gvul, so that the limitless Ein Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum can come down in a Gvul. Elokivon Sha'oir La'achar HaTzimtzum Hu Be'elam. But since this Oir that is after the Tzimtzum is hidden, this level of Bli Gvul is not open, that it comes down in the Kav, it goes through the so that's why that's not the Yud of the Hey, as the Rebbe said before. It's part of the Dalit, Shvadalit. Shu prat me'achoyre hadalit v'loy b'kav b'fnei atzmei ki b'hei. It's not a line like itself, like in a Hey. And therefore, this Tzimtzum is b'shvil hagilui, because we're getting the Ein Sof HaBli Gvul. And the Gvul. It's all coming down through the Kav. Why? Because it was with that Chsiluk. That was a way of removal. And the Rebbe says further in Ha'oret Tezvov, that this is the ultimate Kavonah, v'tachlis ha'kavonah b'briyas ha'olam v'atzimtzum. The ultimate intention in the creating of the world and the Tzimtzum will be Shvil Yisrael. So we want this Gilui. Why would the Eibishter create and make the Tzimtzumim? Is to bring down that light, so that it should be for the Yidden. That what Hashem wanted to have blessed to have a dwelling in the lower world, Hu Bishvil Yisrael, that is for the Yid. Uketoiras Harav Magid, as the teaching of the Rav Magid, Shat Tzimtzum Hu Bishvil Yisrael. This whole symptom is for the Yid. In other words, this has to benefit at the end of the day. The Oid Libul has to come down to the Yid because they're the whole purpose. He gives the Moshul, the Magid says, the Torah Magid, Shat Simtsum, Hu Bishvil Yisrael. For the Yid is for Tzadikim. Why? For those who do the right things. Kidim Yoin Av, Hametzamtzum Esichle Bishvil B'nei HaKodim. It's like a father who restricts his idea for his young son. So a father wants his son to understand him. He's too little, so he brings it down. The Eibshter made this symptom for us, for his young son, for the Yid. We say it's for Yidden, and the Yidden already are shaped, and there is and they're not such a cotton, and there is not giving them the highest level. And here we're saying that they're getting the highest level that Tzimtzum is for them. There is the Yidden Kemoshim Lamayla Mitziyur Odom, they're higher than shaped. That's not the ultimate level. Kamayim Razal Yisrael Olu b'machshava. It says they went up within machshava. Shadiuk b'zehu the Olu b'chinas machshava. So here we have Yidden, Yisrael, not Natsir. They are even in the level of machshava. Hainu b'chinas achinaylish b'machshava. Olu b'machshava in the highest level of machshava. So that's in Yidden in the level of the Eibishter's highest level of the Eibishter's machshava, so to speak. V'gam l'maylim b'chinas machshava, and also higher machshava. Gam l'maylim machshava gduma da'ak, even the higher than the machshava duma v'otum kadmin, they're even higher than that. Ukimavur b'hemshach tofrei samach vav v'tofrei zayin beis, tofrei terav, tofrei zayin beis. The ma'ashan is sava kodesh baruch hu liyis lo yizbarach dirit tachtoinim ubishvil Yisrael. So when we talk about Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu, the highest level, not in the level of Tzir Adam, this is the highest level, even Hu B'Shvil Yisrael. The Neshomes Yisrael Klulim Gam Be'Abchina, the Neshtoikik Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu. Yiddish and Neshomes are included even in the level in which Hashem yearned and wanted. That is where Yidden function, because it's all before the Yidden. It's B'Shvil Yisrael. As it said, who did Hashem consult? If he should create the world, it's Nishmasem. So they're in the Eibishter's, consulting in the Eibishter's desire. And it doesn't mean, in this context, it means all Yid. Move on. The Gam Tzir, Gam Atzimtzum Arishin, Koidem Tzir Metzius Odom, even the first Tzimtzum, which is before Metzius Odom. The Yisrael is talking Metzius Odom. Even in the highest level of Gam Kem Bishul Yisrael, everything is for the Yidden. And therefore, all of the Giluyim, everything comes down and need to remain and need to come down. And it is a purpose, it's a symptom for the purpose of the Gilui. The Rebbe is going to continue to explain how this is also applied in Avodas Odom. Now, I have to make a declaration. I'm not this big maskil who, for that, I try just to at least work hard to understand the wording, what the Rebbe is saying over here, and that there should be a hemshech hadvarim here. But I'm sure that there are Bale Haskola and people that can really understand these inyonim more in depth and have more knowledge. But this is just, I guess, for the time being.